Monty Burks hails from Tennessee and brings a unique blend of personal experience and professional expertise as a justice-involved individual. Having navigated the challenges of the criminal justice system firsthand, Monty chose to dedicate his life to creating opportunities for others who seek a second chance. He pursued a master's degree in criminal justice from Middle Tennessee State University and subsequently earned a doctorate in theology from Heritage, in addition to becoming a certified peer recovery specialist. With 21 years of experience in roles ranging from adjunct professor at Mount Laurel State Community College to a student research analyst at Middle Tennessee State University and a program coordinator at Tennessee State University, Monty has a diversified background. He's now working with Lance, who was going to be here, for the Office of Faith-Based and Community Initiatives out of Governor Lee's administration. He has led the impactful projects such as Tennessee Certified Recovery Congregations, Tennessee Lifeline Peer Project, and the Collegiate Recovery Initiatives aimed at reducing stigma around mental health, addiction, while providing real, tangible support to those affected. I am so glad that Monty's here. He drove over this morning from Nashville. He's been in town for about 20 minutes. I am so pumped for him to be here, though, because this office that you're going to hear about is reimagining what the church can do and how they can engage with needs that are happening in our state. And as we're talking about political engagement, I thought this was an important conversation to have. So, Monty, thank you for being here and sharing about the work you guys get to do.
Well, good morning. I have been up longer than you. So I want to say a couple of things first before I even start my presentation. When I walked in, I saw the neatest arrangement of tennis shoes that I have ever seen in my life. Wow, how church folks have evolved since I was a young man going to church. I've seen Bo Jackson's, Hoka's, St. John's, J.C. Penney's Best, even some Sears and Roebuck boots. I don't even know if they still make those or not. I totally just made that up so y'all would smile. But I saw all of this cool stuff, and I realized that in this room full of people, leaders, the future, people that are handing the torch, passing the torch, that there are so many cool things we do together in our own unique ways. The reason I say that is because I am a rural Tennessean. I was born and raised right across the mountain here. I came from Nashville. Do not judge me. I love Nashville. I'm a Go Vols and a Go Titans and a Go Preds. Anything else Tennessee, just throw it at me. Even Goo Goo Clusters, go Goo Goo. But I was born and raised right on the backside of Swanee Mountain. Anybody here familiar with Swanee? I was actually born on campus because my mother was here at a revival in Chattanooga, and they were going back across the mountain and couldn't make it to the bottom of the mountain. So I was born on the college campus at the hospital that doesn't exist anymore. So my birth certificate, I had a total big problem when they made you redo the birth certificates because mine says I was born in Swanee and I was born at a hospital that doesn't exist anymore. Talk about when I tried to get my passport renewed, the stuff I had to go through. But I was born, raised Winchester, Tennessee. Does anybody know where that is? So I was born in a community. And my community was called Churchtown, which was smack dead in the middle of the city. I'm going to say city. I'm going to call my little town city. You can call it what you want to. When I was young, we had 3 red lights. Now we have about 10. They still equal 3 because most of them only flash. But being raised in a very rural community where the church's impacted the whole community, everything the church was involved in was things that benefited the community. Now, I'll say this, when I say Churchtown, I grew up on a horseshoe street. I think sometimes somebody might have thought it was going to be a cul-de-sac, but it didn't end up being that. But we had 3 different churches, 3 different denominations. And somebody said before me that on Sundays, thank you, that Sundays was probably the most segregated day in any community. You are correct. The neighborhood I grew up in, everybody got along and knew each other well except on Sunday, and you would have thought that we had 3 different political parties doing 3 different things to get ready to fight each other on Monday morning. Everybody thought they had their own definition of their version of how their faith was going to be displayed for the week, and nobody thought anything they did was wrong compared to their neighbor. But the reason that I'm saying that is actually, I want to share a little bit about my personal journey is during that time, I didn't go to all three of those congregations. I went to one. I was part of one denomination. However, I knew people in all three. They became safeguards in my life. All of those people in those communities, while we didn't necessarily do the same thing on Sunday, during the week we followed very similar principles. And most of those principles were geared around community, taking care of our own, loving our neighbor. That child, while he's not mine, I know his grandparents. I know her grandparents. I remember one day I did something out of pocket. I was a knucklehead. I did something out of pocket. How many of you guys were knuckleheads when y'all were kids if you lived in the country? I'm gonna get your grandma, your great grandmama's up there right now smiling at you because you're still here. So I did knucklehead stuff. Knucklehead things that little boys used to do that would get themselves in trouble. I'm not gonna go into the knuckleheadness. I'm just gonna share some. You smile and laugh with me. I'm here, I'm still here, 48 years, I'm still here. But I remember turning around and somebody else's grandmother, who I didn't fully know well, called me by my granddaddy's name. When she did, I knew she knew me. She didn't just know me, she knew my whole lineage, my heritage, where I came from. She knew it all, and she popped me. The other young men with me ran. I went in the house terrified for about 5 to 7 business days that the message was going to get back to my family that I'd done some knuckleheadedness in my community. But here's what happened. The lady was actually protecting us because we were doing some stuff that was dangerous. She loved on me even though she wasn't directly part of my family household, but she was part of my bigger family. She became a safeguard, a protector. I still to this day look over my shoulder and expect her to come when I do something. I'm still looking for her right now. But those are the things and the power and the impact we can have when we decide to posture together. The name of this today is posture, right? The first word was posture. So as we posture, shouldn't we posture together, not at each other? I said it. Posture with each other. We do not need to do things the same to be effective. We do not. I have worked in the government space for years. I did not come from government. I'm going to tell you what I came from in just a second. I'm super country. I say y'all and ain't a lot. If you have an issue with that, put it in my reviews. Put it under Lance Villio. Villio. But I say y'all and ain't a lot because I'm southern rural. I was raised amongst jobs and things. So I get it. I love Tennessee. I have been to every county in the state. I have a friend. I've visited churches. And as the previous panel, I've been to synagogues. I've been to mosques. I've been into places that I was totally unfamiliar with what they did. However, we all sat down and had a cup of coffee or water, depending on who had what strategic advantage at the table. We had a cup of coffee or a cup of water and talked about homelessness, talked about poverty, talked about workforce development, talked about the things that drove communities, not the things that drove wedges in communities. So we say the word posture. When we posture together across denominations, we can be super effective. So I'll tell you a little bit about my personal journey, how I got here and all the cool stuff. I'm going to share a couple of slides so I can be very formal than informal. But I did get you all to work with me, listen to me just for a minute because I'm totally honest. I'm as honest as you can get. The reason that I work in this position is because of my objective honesty about where I came from and the power of the people in the pews of our beautiful sanctuaries to help me get here. I'm very true, very open, very honest. Google me. You might see me fighting somebody or something. That's cool. I'm a martial art guy, but that's not why I'm here today, so don't ask me those questions. So let me figure out how to slide. Okay. Tell me, is it moving? Okay. So in the initiative, in this office, when this office was first created, Governor Bill Lee had this awesome idea, and he often says this, and I think you all know this, that government is not the answer to our biggest challenges. It's not. Usually by the time the government has to intervene or partner with you, it means that all of the other traditional safeguards have failed. All the other traditional safeguards have failed. It means, it doesn't, when we say fail doesn't always mean you didn't try. Sometimes fail means you didn't know. I worked with the Department of Mental Health during the opioid epidemic, and educating people of faith around opioid addiction, and then warning people that overdoses were coming because of safeguards deteriorating, was a hard conversation. You know, I was sitting up in the pews of sanctuaries as a son of many of these churches, and because I brought information, I became the enemy. I wanted to be the friend because I wanted to give them a warning, and also, please be involved in loving your children and other people. Don't let the media or anybody else tell you not to love your child or love your neighbor. That is not what we're supposed to do. But by the time government's involved, we know that there's something that failed somewhere in the community. So this is my title. This is my cool picture. I'm keeping this one. My hair's turned gray. But I'm going to keep this slide for a little while because during COVID, my hair turned gray. It's called COVID gray. I don't know if it's a thing, but I'm going to say it now. I'm going to keep this picture. This is my contact information. I was appointed to be the deputy director. Lance was appointed as the executive director, and he brought me over from the Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services. I spent 10 years in that department as the architect of our state's, of that department's first faith-based initiative. Some of the clergy in here I know from that initiative. My job was to figure out how to get people of faith to talk about addiction and mental health, not talk at it. Talk about it, not talk at it. When you talk at something, you posture against. When you posture at someone or against someone, you put them across the street. You don't put them in the pews. You don't put them in your building. You don't put them in your heart. But when you posture at somebody, it's a fight. But it becomes a fight against the wrong people. When you love someone back to life, I like to say loving people back to life. When you start to love somebody back to life, it becomes a partnership, right? Sometimes people don't know they're in a partnership when you're loving somebody back to life. It doesn't mean you always agree with them. It doesn't mean you have to compromise anything, but it does mean that you are mission driven and you have a vision that you're trying to see through. Here's an awesome pic of our cool team. So this is Lance, who was not, again, evals go on to Lance's name. Hashtags go into his name unless it's pretty cool. You can hashtag me in it. This is Lance Villio. He's top left. This is our team. Some of our team is here. These are our regional directors over to your left. Dr. Emily Hager is here. She is in the back, on the very back wall back there. She's your East Tennessee regional director. And these are our initiatives and operations directors. This is our small but mighty team who have been tasked to go out and have some very uncomfortable, comfortable, informal, formal conversations about how and why our communities of faith need to get involved. When I say get involved, I'm not asking you to get involved with government. I'm saying get involved with your community. Government should be a lever you pull, a resource that you use to do something in your community that needs you. Government is not the answer. I can't come in your house and tell you how to do business. I can't come to your church and claim to know what Sister Betty was talking about last week at the bake sale because I don't know. However, you do as clergy. I don't know if you're clergy, but Coy, I just threw it on you because you was in front of me, man. But you would know before I would know. I don't need to know. My job as the link between the bridge is to make sure that our communities of faith understand how to use the same resources that everybody else does. There are all kinds of things that people can partner to use and do. Sometimes people fail at getting that information because they didn't know about it or somebody on my side didn't get it to them. So our job is to figure out how to make that work and to pull communities together to do that. So I was blessed to be able to come here from Nashville this morning. I thought it was pretty cool. First thing I did when I walked in is I saw somebody with a pair of Bo Jacksons on. Does anybody know who Bo Jackson is in here? Yes, yes. Bo, no, yeah, who said that? Somebody said Bo knows. All right. Yeah. We're doing a selfie when I leave, man. We got to get a selfie on that one. But seeing all of these wonderful folks together, we're common cause. I see people that are just so different, but are uniquely situated to get into the mix to address problems. We can't solve everything, but we can address a whole lot, right? I can't save anybody, but I can give people tools to save themselves. I have access to a toolkit. I can't tell you how to use them. I don't know where you're from. I haven't been in your house. So now I get to tell you a little bit about me and my personal journey. Hi, My name is Monty Burks. I'm a person that's in long-term recovery from substance abuse and a mental health diagnosis. I just celebrated 24 years free from bondage, and I am here to be your friend today. So part of my unique and wonderful journey was trying to figure me out and how to figure me out. So I'm going to tell you my story and then maybe give you a different idea of what it looks like to work and serve from a government position to my people, you. My people are the 6.7 million Tennesseans that suffer from the same issues. They don't care if you're from Memphis or you're from Mountain City, you just talk different. Your issues are usually the same. They've just been packaged a little different depending on how you read it or what you think you saw or what music you listen to. I do not want to see most of y'all's playlist. I do not, because I just want to love you and see that smile on your face and leave you right there this morning. But my personal story is I grew up rural, very southern rural. All of the traditional safeguards. My mother is a missionary, evangelist, piano player. I grew up Pentecostal. I went to church 18 to 19 times a week. Every night that I thought we were not doing anything, we would have choir practice. I was like, how many choir practices can we have in 1 week? So I started playing every sport I could, and I still ended up at choir practice. But I grew up very traditional. My father was in the military. My mother was Pentecostal. My father was Catholic. I did my own moment of silence right there. So just for my Catholic and Pentecostal friends that are in the room, just so y'all know, I was Catholic during football season and I was Pentecostal the rest of the year because it was very scripted time to leave so I could get out and watch the football game. Don't judge me, love me. Peace be to the peacemaker, right? But growing up in those communities, I did see the value of having a tradition of respect, a tradition for comfort, a tradition for support. My grandmother, my grandfather, all of my family served in different roles and different capacities within our church. So when I turned 18, I couldn't wait to get away from the church. The first choice I made at 18.1 years old was to go to college and never look back. I was like, I don't know how many of y'all ever done that before, but it just happened. It's my own rite of passage. So the first thing I did is I took off and I ran. My father died shortly thereafter, and I lost my paternal person. I lost the patriarch of my family. I lost the person that I followed the most, the person that I needed the most. And what happened to me is what's happened to so many other people that are in similar circumstances. I didn't gravitate back toward what I came from. I gravitated toward the world. And the world introduced me to all kind of stuff. And the stuff that it introduced me to was the stuff that almost killed me. I went from being a straight A, cool kid, college kid that was about to take the LSAT and go to law school, and I ended up going to jail about 6 times in 3 months, arrested for everything under the sun. I was kicked out of school. They suspended me from college because I quit going to class. If you are a collegiate, you're an educator now, thank you so much for calling children to find out why they're not coming to school now. When I went to school, they didn't do that. They were just like, okay, you didn't come, see you later. When I was suspended, I had so much pride that I was afraid to tell my family that I wasn't in school, so I didn't tell them. I slept in my car and stayed at my friend's house. I did not tell people around me that I was homeless and that I was broke because I didn't want to go back and face people and tell them that I had fallen from what I considered grace in my life. But I'll tell you what happened to me, and I'm gonna tell you why I'm in the work that I do, why I'm here, why I think it's so important for all of us to figure out a strategic game that we can do to address things in our community. When I say things, all of you don't have the same ministries. You shouldn't. I love Celebrate Recovery. I think it is the jam between the toast. That's what I'm talking about right there. I know that everybody doesn't do that. I think that your workforce development ministries are also important. It's a good partnership. You don't have to have both to partner with the other one from somebody else's spot. But for me, I had hit a rock bottom, and I went into a restaurant to eat, and a lady walked up to me, this wonderful lady, and she put her hand on my hand while I was eating. I was trying to eat. She put her hand on me, and she said, "Hey." I said, "What?" She said, "Hey, you okay?" This was so, I thought, random. I said, yes, ma'am, I'm fine. Now, I'm a Southern male that was born in the Southern South. So when somebody asks you what's wrong or what's going on, your knee-jerk response is always, as a man, nothing, I'm fine. I got this. She saw that I was weak and that I was broken, and she asked me, without asking me my name, would I like to go to a support group with her? I rejected her for 90 seconds. Let me tell you why it was so impactful. Because, what's your name, ma'am? Christina. She spoke to me, and the way she spoke to me reminded me of people that I've been to church with. It was the way she spoke to me and the way she touched my hand. I said, okay, I'll go. So as I went with her, I was gonna follow her. She said, get in the car with me. You know how church mothers are. If you've not grown up with church mothers, they'll ask you for your chewing gum like this. Pinch you on the leg like this. If you get a leg pinch or an arm pinch, you've done something really felonious. But she took me to a meeting in Murfreesboro on the square. I was in Murfreesboro, I went to MTSU. She took me to a meeting. I walked in, and there was a group of people sitting at a table. I'd never in my life seen other people talk about addiction in a circle, because I thought that I suffered alone because I suffered in silence. And secrets keep you sick. Silence keeps you sick. So I went into the meeting, and the first thing I said when I went into the meeting is like, I don't belong here because I ain't one of them. But I was. Somebody pulled up a chair, I sat down, I started to engage, and that was the beginning of me rebuilding. And I did it through a partnership with a church that I didn't know existed, because during that time, we didn't really talk about stuff like that. The church really didn't openly advocate for people who, now, I'm not saying that the church didn't love everybody who came through the door. I didn't say that. What I said was that there weren't stuff out, there was no sign that said, come here for this type of meeting. There was no social media, period. Now, actually, I'm thankful for that, but there was no social media saying, come into this room. There was none of that. There was a woman at a restaurant who invited me to a room. The room was an open door opportunity. Guess what else she did in life? She was a guidance counselor at Middle Tennessee State University. She helped me get re-enrolled in school a few months later. Upon that journey, I was able to get back into school, reimagine who I was, and a professor connected with me, and I ended up teaching at the university that I'd been suspended from. You want to talk about my own personal God moment. I am Pentecostal. That was when I did this right here. I don't know if you've ever seen that before. For this side of the room, it's this one right here. That's a pew move. That's a pew move, very similar to what Bo Jackson would do when he was running the football. But it was a moment for me because I didn't believe that things would ever work for me again, because everything in the world told me that I would never amount to nothing at that rock bottom moment. And then I was given an opportunity to work in this field called reentry. And they put me in a spot, and the first job they gave me, they said, hey, can you get people of faith to work with people who have been formerly incarcerated? And it seems like it would be the easiest thing in the world. It was not. But what I did find out was that a lot of well-intended people were very misinformed about the people that were coming through the systems. You didn't know that, hey, prison fellowship is good, but when you prison fellowship with people, it's not over there. It's right here. It's here. It's here. It's here. It's not, hey, show up outside, I've got a basket for you. Hope you're good for the next 6 days this week. The dive-in of the ministry wasn't 30 minutes once a week. The dive-in part of the ministry was connecting people to resources in a continuum that lasted 7 days. In Pentecostal word, that's 18 meetings. I was given that opportunity, recruited to work in the state government. I came in, and my job there was to figure out how to get people of faith to work together to combat addiction and mental illness. And the first thing we had to do is come to a general agreement on what addiction was and what mental illness was. What's the difference between mental illness and mental health? And then once we got a baseline of definitions, denominations, do your thing. People of faith, do your thing. There's nothing wrong with doing it different, but let's all just do something. Let's just do something. To the 3-person congregation that can only cook once a week to support a group, that is just as important to the 3,000 member congregation that has a meeting once a week. It all works together because we're trying to help love other people back to life. So that's my personal journey to where I'm at now. I spent 10 years at the Department of Mental Health. I've been in the governor's office for a little bit over a year. I am not afraid to share my lived experience. If you want to be honest, I think that lived experience, we all have it. All of us have had a hurt, habit, or hang up that we needed help from. And I think that we found some type of community somewhere that's helped us do that. So now I get to talk to you about what we do in the governor's office and hopefully answer a couple of questions. But I hope I humanize myself for you enough for you to realize that everybody, whatever preconceived notion you had about people that worked in government, I hope that I broke those stereotypes. I hope that I did. I have a whole bunch of tattoos. I'm a former MMA fighter. I still train with MMA guys in Nashville. Me and my friends punch each other 2 to 3 times a week. I'm still a great human being, and I do yoga 2 times a week, sometimes 3 times a week. If you've never tried yoga, it will break you. So the role of our initiative is to try to figure out how to connect these 3 groups to do similar work, but also not compromising the identity of each one of these 3. So we have houses of worship. There are over 11,500 houses of worship in Tennessee. We have over 55% of our state's population identify as some type of faith, some type of belief system. The Pew Research Foundation gave some information. I do not have it with me right now because I wasn't fully prepared this morning, but I want to share this with you, that we see statistics that say so many people are leaving the church. It didn't say that people are leaving their faith. It's they're using non-traditional means to still do similar things. So I think that that is actually still an opportunity to utilize people with very similar beliefs to do a great strategic work. We have our community nonprofits. There are over 30,000 nonprofits in the state. I have no idea how many of those are faith-based, but I do know that a very large percentage of those have faith-based components, which means they're going to serve people from Tennessee. And then you have Tennessee state government, 23 departments. When you say the state, please don't assume that I know everybody in every state department. I don't, and I don't want to. That would blow my brain up. However, I do know what the state departments are. And if a clergy member, somebody that is responsible for a ministry reaches out and says, hey, I'm interested in this might be something that a liaison in our office, our regional director, might be able to help you talk to someone and not just email someone. How many of you get frustrated with emailing people and you get emails back and then you never actually have a conversation because you just emailed 6 times and you're done with it? That's fair. I read something about our young people now. They don't do that anymore. It's two clicks and they're out. 2 clicks and they're done. So our first initiative is Every Child Tennessee. And next week, Monday, we have our kickoff for Every Child Tennessee. It will be at Belmont University. We have almost 2,000 people that are coming from all across the state to celebrate foster children, foster families, and the foster care and adoption system. When I say that, did you know that the foster care system is not something that people openly talk about often? There's a stigma attached to raising foster children. Foster children don't just roll up into school or roll up into Sunday school and say, hey, I'm a foster child. They don't do that because there's a stigma attached to the words associated with foster children. We sometimes get into a very stereotypical generalization space when we refer to people, and this is just the nature of us as humans, is we like to divide ourselves somehow. Half of the room is SEC fans, half of you is something else. All right, if I started talking about it in 5 minutes, we would be divided into who's going to win the SEC championship, who Roll Tide, Go Vols, I can't even believe I said Roll Tide. Sounds like toilet paper. All right. Somebody just said something, I heard them. My car's parked way at the end. I need some deacons. Sunday deacons protect me on the way to my car. I know that's what you've been trained for. Over 8,000 children in state custody, around 5,000 approved families. So we have 8,000 children that need, we have 5,000 families that support. Over 4,000 young people are have come out of the foster care system in the last 5 years, 861 aged out, and of the young people eligible for an extension of foster care, only 50% accept. How many of you are familiar with extension of foster care? So if you foster a child, if a child's connected to your family, the day they turn 18, they can roll out unless they have some type of judicial commitment. If there's not a criminal justice attachment, they can roll out. So what do you think a child will do if they've been through multiple foster families and systems when they turn 18? Do you think they're just going to stay? No, they're going to be a young adult and they're going to detach themselves from a system. The problem with that is that a significant portion of those young people that disconnect from the foster system end up experiencing homelessness or end up being introduced to the criminal justice system. Bad things happen to good people. And sometimes systems are set up to catch people who just needed somebody to love them just a little bit longer. We can't make them do that, but this is stuff that we should know, especially when we're dealing with our family members and the kinship placements. I grew up in the church. When someone went to jail or someone passed away or a family member just was out of pocket, usually someone in our local faith community would step up and take care of the child until the family member got well, or the family member came back, or if the family member never came back. We didn't even look at it like it was a foster commitment. But now we know we have numbers, we have data, and we're in a different world than when I grew up. So we need all of these communities, even communities of non-faith, even attachments and groups of people that are not from a faith. The grocery store is not faith-based, but we need a grocery partner. We need, as communities of faith, to circle around all the resources and how we can utilize them to better serve the populations of people that come into the pews of your sanctuaries, or at least are in your general vicinity. So these are our 4 prongs, 4 priorities for this initiative. We got 2 different initiatives that we're working on now. This is the first. Preservation, keeping families together. That would be the ultimate goal, is to keep a family together, whatever that looks like. Second is recruitment, invite families to foster. This is what we're doing with our kickoff, is we're trying to make the state, the world, see that fostering children is actually a cool thing. These are family members. These are our babies, our brothers, our sisters. We may be completely different. Guess what? We're still the same. Retention, providing support to fostering families. Did you know that you don't have to foster a child to walk across the street and give a resource to a foster family? In the addiction space, people learn to support families who had a loved one that had fallen. When a person's family member was diagnosed with cancer, what is the first thing that we do in the pews of our sanctuaries? We bake casseroles, we start a meal train, we do all the stuff. We set up a Facebook page just to support the family member. Why do we not do that for family members that are supporting children that are not biologically theirs? Why not? 8,000 children, 11,500 congregations. If every one of our communities of faith adopted one child, one family, not to say adopt a child, but adopted a family that fostered, do you think that we could help slow down the criminal justice involvement and the experiencing of homelessness? Absolutely. I'm a certified peer recovery specialist. I use my lived experience. It took one lady one time to touch my hand and invite me to a recovery meeting for me to start walking on a different path. It wasn't easy, but somebody loved me in the most vulnerable space that I was in, and a space that I didn't want to tell my biological mother about. I wanted to hide all of that from her. And my freedom was somebody else reminded me of who I was and how important I was. And then lastly is transition, caring for youth as they transition out of the foster care system, jobs, school, stuff, kickball leagues, softball, gyms, stuff, all the stuff that can create a thriving young adult that can change generational curses, generational impacts by their presence moving forward, not backwards. Our second initiative is the Volunteer Mentor Initiative. And again, these are just the 2 things that we're working on now. We're actually involved in a lot of other things across the state, but these are 2 major priorities. So our Volunteer Mentor Initiative is geared around matching mentors with people that are currently incarcerated. So for 12 months, a person will make a commitment. You can be a person from any walk of life. I would love some of these deacons sitting up in this room right now with hokas on to come and volunteer to be part of mentoring someone. One-on-one mentoring long-term, not volunteering, mentoring. One-on-one relationship with a person 12 months before they're released. There is data that shows that that person's attachment to you will last. Their attachment to the system is gone the day they walk out of that door, because everything associated with a system is something that constrained them or confined them. But being connected with someone that's out here that knows all the workforce stuff, you know where the hospital is, you know where the college is, you know where the welding certification is, you understand freedom, you have a family, you've lost your family, you've experienced divorce, you've experienced happiness. These are things that people would love to hear from one person, not just do a textbook with 20 other people in a big class. Smaller classes equal successful students. Is that fair? So imagine one-on-one mentoring. The mentor can have a criminal history but cannot be on active supervision. They commit to meeting one night per month. They must follow criminal justice policies. If any of you are interested, please see me after, or just email me from my cool slide earlier when I had dark hair and it wasn't gray. I'll go back to that slide in just a minute because I actually like it. I think I look pretty cool. You must show up because we want to make sure that we don't provide false hope for people that are in the criminal justice system. When we say the Volunteer Mentor Initiative, we're talking about in prisons, not jails. So we will eventually work in the jail, in the county jails and the other jails, but we're only working in the prison system now. Currently, VMI has two projects we're working in the middle of Davidson County. We have a women's project and a men's project. We plan on, by early next year, expanding this to all prisons across the state of Tennessee. So I really could use your help. When I say I mean we, all of us as a team. A lot of the young people that we're working with in the criminal justice system, when you ask them, what has your life been like? How was your family? You know what one of their number one responses is? I was a foster child. These are the adults on the other end of the first initiative that we're talking about, telling us that they were in the foster system and they ran away from the foster system because they didn't have a good experience. And I'll be honest with you, 18 years, a young man before he turns 25, guys, get mad at me if you want, but our prefrontal cortex is not really fully developed in the way that it should be till we're over 25. This is just some brain science. That means all the knocks on the head and all the dumb stuff we did, all of a sudden at 26, our insurance rates went down because they figured out a long time ago that we make better decisions when we get older. So you think about an 18-year-old young man coming out. Ladies, this is not reference to you. Ladies grow up when they're 10, 11, or 12 years old, and they're awesome. All right, I know that some of y'all are married at these tables, so I am kicking for you right now, sir. But sometimes, guys, we're known. That's why the men's criminal justice system has a larger number of people incarcerated than the women's criminal justice system. It's not to take anything away from that, but helping someone grow up and then grow out is the jam. So what can we do? Adopt a court, work with a court. I work with Judge McVeigh here a lot here in Chattanooga. If I don't know if anybody knows him or not. Judge McVeigh is a personal friend of mine, and we've served on an advisory committee for the Supreme Court's Faith and Justice Alliance. And we've seen all kinds of cool people get it back on track and become really successful human beings. But sometimes it takes a church, a court, a community organization, a nonprofit, and then maybe somebody that's just out of the ordinary, just holding someone long enough. Peer mentorships for adults, mentorships for children, and aiding in expungement clinics. This is one thing that I think I want to share this data with you, and hopefully I can answer a question or two. Communities of faith are the coolest place to have an expungement clinic. Why? Because it's non-threatening and it's non-territorial. How do I know this? Well, just let me riddle you this. 3-4 weeks ago in Memphis, we had an expungement clinic at a congregation, and it went from being maybe 100 people would show up to almost 2,000 showed up. 2,000 people, but it wasn't just people that needed an expungement, it was actually people just looking for someone to belong to. So we had food trucks and we had other resources, we had showers, we had people that came with how you can enroll to get your teeth cleaned, how you can have facial tattoos removed. All of this happened because people saw a friendly spot. And I will tell you that all of those people were not from the same denomination. I'll be honest with you. I'm pretty sure that that number of people, they all weren't even from the same belief system. But they partnered to do this, and the progeny of that is you had hundreds of people that were able to get their records seen. I don't know the final tally of the number of expungements that happened that day, but can you imagine how awesome that was in the community for people to feel comfortable enough to come and have those conversations? So that is my last slide, and here's my contact information. So I have time for a question or two.
Here, you take this one.
Okay.
Well, just because we only have a couple minutes, I want to ask one just follow-up question.
Yes.
You know, one of the things I was, as you were talking, the talk right before you got here, Micah was talking about, one of his points was how we, as we move towards people, we become proximate and we see them. And I loved how you talked about not seeing across, but the handshake and the closeness. We have lots of churches represented in the room, and you have a chance all over the state of Tennessee to meet with faith leaders. And you guys have a vision for what it would look like for the faith leaders to join the government in the needs that they're seeing in our state. What is your hope for churches in the state of Tennessee? What would it look like if churches joined in this work to meet needs in our state and use the political power outside the vote to do that?
Absolutely. So I'm going to reference churches as mini hospitals, okay? The best, most efficient mini hospital in every community is you. In all 95 counties, there's only a few things that exist in every county. Houses of faith don't just exist in every county, they exist in every town. Every single town in the state. In a perfect world, all of our congregations would figure out what ministry would best suit their strength. All right, hear me out. I know that we all got these big ideas and these big hearts, but realistically, we can't all do everything. However, we could do something that could fit something to benefit our community and partner with all of the other ministries that do similar work, and the ones that don't do similar work, we know what they do. So when a person comes to you, Pastor Jeremy, I see your collar, Pastor Jeremy, respectfully, Pastor, if I come to Pastor Jeremy and says, hey, Pastor Jeremy, I am experiencing a mental health issue right now, he can say, hey, we don't do that at our church, but let me put you in this church van real quick and take you over to this congregation. They do that. Our church vans should be known as Chuber. Church Uber. You like that? Chuber. Hashtag me in that, not Lance. I did that. But that would be a vision or a dream, is to have all of those houses of faith work together in some form or capacity. The second part of that dream would be reach out to our office and let us help you. Let us help you. There may be an opportunity somewhere along the way for us to get tools to you to strengthen the ministry that you think that you're ready to handle. So one of the best examples of that is I worked in a criminal justice program, and there were some ladies who used to wear red hats. I do not know what this is called, but they came and sang to a group of men that had been incarcerated for years. And we'd actually had some trouble with the guys that had been incarcerated because we couldn't get them to open up. They were all trying to out-tough each other in the room. Fair. I was like, oh my gosh, will you please just stop being so tough? These ladies came in and sang Amazing Grace. So after they cried for about 18 minutes straight, put their heads down, after that, it was smooth sailing. That was a partnership between a local group of churches and one of the prisons for the ladies to come in and minister once a month. That's something so simple because it can break down and disarm a person long enough for someone to get through a rough exterior to provide a resource. So those are my two dreams, is partner and let us help you in any way that we can, whatever that looks like: transportation, homelessness, family stuff, diapers, all the stuff that you might run into or encounter. Can we be your friend? When I say we be your friend, you big friend, we little friend. We're little friend that's going to help you.
We got 2 minutes, and so this is a personal question for you. What you've laid out for us is an audacious goal that your office has of collaborating with 30,000 nonprofits, 16,000 churches, however many set of places of worship to meet needs in our state. For you as a person of faith, is there a Bible verse or a Bible idea that drives you, a theological idea that drives you to keep showing up every day in your work?
Freedom. Freedom. Pharaoh did not count his enemies by their chains. He counted them by their swords. When people are free and can fight and can earn and can be productive. They're purpose-driven, and they don't have to look back. I think that if we understand how to encompass and embrace people's individual freedom, it's a journey that can change generations of people, and we won't continue to lose them wandering in the wilderness for years and years trying to figure it out. I think that us as people of faith, that no matter what, I know that we all do church different on Sunday. I was listening to the last panel, the man hit it right on the head. We all do church stuff different. We all worship different. We all do stuff different. I went to Bible study. I went to all the stuff. I didn't really have a radical encounter that changed me till I hit rock bottom. I did not have a radical encounter that changed me till I hit rock bottom. But all of the seeds planted along the way helped me understand how to look forward and realize that I had been trapped in an open cage most of my life. So you asked me, I told you, freedom. Also remember that you messed up too. So the people that you're trying to love, give them the grace to get there.
Can we thank Dr. Burks for last minute driving over from Nashville and sharing with us about the amazing work they're doing at their office. Thank you so much. Appreciate you.